Welcome to the Great Basin Smoke Dispersion Briefing for Friday, December 8th. This is Gina McGuire. Over the last 30 days, we've had precipitation mainly targeted over the northern half of the Great Basin, with very dry conditions over southern Nevada, southern Utah, and the Arizona Strip, with no precipitation over the last 30 days, and even longer in some areas. Even the precipitation we saw over the northern half of the Great Basin was largely below normal. However, there were parts of northeast Nevada up into Idaho and Wyoming, and especially the Sierra, which saw just above normal precipitation over the last month. Looking at the snowfall over the last 72 hours, the image on the left shows that really no snowfall has occurred in most areas. There was a little bit of light snowfall into parts of Wyoming and also into the Uinta Mountains. However, the rest of the Great Basin remained free of any new snowfall. The snow depth, the highest snow depth, is over the central Idaho Mountains and north into Wyoming, and also some snowfall into parts of the northern Wasatch, Uinta, and also into the northern Sierra. The satellite loop from this morning shows generally clear skies across the Great Basin with high pressure dominating all of the west coast. We do have some northerly wind flow on the east side of the ridge over mainly the eastern half of the Great Basin, with generally much lighter winds further west. This pattern will largely remain unchanged over the next week or so. Now looking at the weather pattern later this afternoon, again a very strong ridge is in place across the Great Basin, so very dry conditions are expected region-wide, with generally poor dispersion over the northern half to two-thirds of the Great Basin. Under these ridges of high pressure is where we see our stronger inversions this time of year, and this will likely continue at least over the next week or longer. Looking at the transport winds for today on the left, do have some north to northeast winds over the eastern and southern half of the Great Basin, so winds will be a little bit breezier at times, but still generally below 30 miles per hour. Underneath the center of the ridge, over Idaho and really most of Nevada, very light winds are expected. Therefore, mixing heights will remain quite low in the north and west, and only moderate over the southern and eastern areas. Very similar conditions on Saturday with this strong ridge of high pressure. Temperatures will likely be above normal for this time of year, but we will see those strong inversions in place through the next week. Therefore, poor dispersion really region-wide with the exception of the very far south. Transport winds on Saturday show winds decreasing from what we'll see today over southern and eastern areas, so generally light winds region-wide, and also very low mixing heights, and again more moderate as you move into the Arizona Strip, southern Nevada, and southern Utah. Looking at Sunday, again very similar conditions, dry weather, ridge still in place across the west with poor ventilation. Transport winds very similar on Sunday to what we'll see on Saturday, with only winds 10 to 15 miles per hour over far southern areas, but very light winds everywhere else. Also, low mixing heights to the north and west, and moderate in the far south. Looking at the forecast clearing index for Utah, you can see very little change. If anything, conditions get a little bit worse as those winds decrease on Saturday and Sunday, with generally low clearing indices region-wide. No precipitation is forecast under this pattern. As we go into next week, again, very little change in the pattern with the ridge dominating in very dry conditions. Therefore, light winds and poor dispersion is expected region-wide, and again, possibly just a little bit higher in the far south. Very similar conditions on Tuesday, and into Wednesday, and even into Thursday next week. We will likely not see a change in this pattern until at least the third week of December, but at least for the next 7 to 10 days, and likely longer, we'll stay in this dry pattern under a ridge of high pressure with temperatures near or just above normal, but with those strong inversions in place, so that will have to be mindful for prescribed burning. Also light winds region-wide and no precipitation. If we look at the 8 to 14 day outlook, again, as we've been talking about, this is December 15th through the 21st, still above normal temperatures region-wide, and that below normal, very dry signature still remaining through the second and third week in December. That concludes our briefing for today. Check back on Monday for the latest updates.